For our 6th anniversary, Jackson finally agreed to take me to Willow Creek, an ancient riverside town. I had spent 2 months excitedly preparing, imagining us sitting in a wooden boat gliding through narrow canals, holding hands as we admired the old stone bridges, or standing on the Phoenix Bridge whispering, "I love you," amidst the crowds under the glow of red lanterns. On the day of our departure, I stood at the airport in Chicago, waiting for him for over an hour and a half. Finally, I received a brief text. "Lily, an urgent project came up at the office. Go ahead without me. I'll try to catch a later flight." I smiled, comforting myself that he must be truly busy. He had never broken a promise before. At midnight, my flight landed at the airport near Savannah. As I pulled my suitcase through the exit, I opened my phone to scroll through social media and saw Chloe's latest story. It was a close-up photo of 2 hands interlaced, both wearing matching silver necklaces, the same pair Jackson and I had bought at a small jewelry shop for our 3rd anniversary. The caption read, "Jackson being this attentive is truly the greatest happiness of my life." I smiled faintly and left a comment, "A match made in heaven. Hope you two stay together forever." When we were booking the tickets, Jackson had hugged me from behind and whispered, "You've always dreamed of Willow Creek. This time, I'm definitely going with you. We'll take a boat, and I'll sing you a folk song." I believed him. I always believed him. Even when he left me at the airport, I didn't doubt him. Not until I saw that story and recognized that familiar necklace shimmering under the Willow Creek lanterns. I placed a video call to him. The call lasted exactly 3 minutes. His voice was as cold as ever. "Lily, stop overthinking. Chloe is just a childhood friend. She's been emotionally unstable lately, and I'm just comforting her." I hung up. Tears fell, but I didn't make a sound. The next day, I went to a tea house by the canal and hired a local guide named Ryan. He was tall with a bright smile and spoke perfect English. For $1,000 for 10 days, he took me all over Willow Creek, from the floating morning markets to feed the pigeons, to buying traditional masks and taking photos on the arched stone bridges. Most importantly, we took that wooden boat ride at sunset. On the final day, I posted a story, a photo of Ryan and me clinking glasses of tea on a boat, with the glowing Phoenix Bridge in the background. My caption, "Willow Creek at night, fragrant tea and unexpected surprises." In less than a minute, my phone vibrated incessantly. Jackson called, and his first question was who that man was. Without waiting for an answer, he asked urgently, "Where is your matching necklace?" There was a note of panic in his voice, something I had rarely heard in 6 years. I calmly replied, "Ryan is a local guide I hired. As for the necklace, I accidentally dropped it into the canal while feeding the birds at the market." There was a long silence on the other end before his voice dropped low. "I'll be at the airport to pick you up tomorrow." I just gave a brief, "Okay," hung up, and turned off my phone, continuing to sip my tea by the canal. Back in Chicago, my flight landed at 7 p.m. Wearing high heels and dragging 2 heavy suitcases, I walked into the arrivals hall. He had bought the ticket. He knew when I'd be back. But 8 p.m. passed, then 8:30, then 9, and there was no sign of Jackson. I didn't wait any longer. I stood in line for a taxi amidst the heavy crowd. By the time I reached my apartment, it was past 11 p.m. The kind taxi driver asked, "Are you sure you're okay on your own with these heavy bags and those heels? Let me help you inside." I smiled and thanked him, saying I could manage. On the way to the elevator, my heel got caught in the door track, and I felt a sharp, stinging pain in my ankle. At that exact moment, a text from my sister popped up. "Lily, have you thought it over? Come study abroad in Italy with me. I can go with you." It would only be for 2 years. My sister works in design and had always wanted me to pursue further studies in Florence or Venice to advance my career. I had always refused because I didn't want to be away from Jackson, but looking at my swollen red ankle in the dark, empty apartment where no one was waiting for me, I hit send. "Sis, I want to go to Venice." After taking a hot shower, I opened my laptop and registered for the Italian language exam next month. The Italian textbook I had bought to prepare for this trip, one I had abandoned because it was too difficult, sat on the desk. I stayed up late studying until I drifted off, slumped over the table. "Lily? Lily?" Jackson's voice rang out. I opened my eyes to see him standing there, smelling strongly of alcohol. He frowned, looking like he wanted to say something but hesitated. I rubbed my eyes. "You're home? It's late, go to bed." He grabbed my hand. "Lily, when did you get back? Why didn't you answer my calls?" I checked my phone and saw several missed calls, but I had silenced it while I was studying. Chloe had another episode. She was breaking things at home and saying she wanted to hurt herself, so I had to. "Right," I interrupted him, my voice calm. It's late and I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. He gripped my hand tighter. Lily, don't be angry. She and I are truly just friends. I gently pulled my hand away. I'm not angry. Good night, Jackson. He stared at me for a long time with a look of irritation before finally letting go. The living room door slammed shut with a loud bang. I lay down in bed and closed my eyes. That night, I slept incredibly well. The next morning, there was breakfast on the table that he had bought, along with a small gift box. Inside was a new pair of matching necklaces. For our 6th anniversary, Lily, he said. He gave a long-winded explanation about Chloe, about how she was unstable and why he had to look after her. I just smiled and took a bite of a bun. Go ahead and eat, Jackson. He held out the necklace, watching me. The old one is gone, so wear the new one, okay? I hesitated for 2 seconds before taking it. Yeah, thanks. He let out a sigh of relief, his expression brightening. Come have dinner with my parents tonight. I looked up, slightly surprised. 3 years ago, the first time I went to his house, I found Chloe sitting there chatting happily with his parents. Since then, he had always found excuses not to take me back. Back then, if he had said this, I would have been happy enough to cry. Now, I just shook my head. I'm busy tonight. Busy with what? He asked. It was freelance work. Actually, I was studying for my Italian exam, but I didn't tell him. He frowned. I already promised my parents. I replied, I'm sorry, maybe next time. He went silent, then said coldly, Fine, I'll ask Chloe to go with me then. The door slammed again. I didn't look up and continued organizing my study abroad documents. Willow Creek was no longer a dream of having him by my side. It was now a future that belonged only to me. After that night, I stopped waiting for Jackson to come home like I used to. Every evening, instead of sitting by the window watching the street for the sound of his key turning in the lock, I opened my laptop. I pulled up my language apps and focused on practicing my pronunciation. Words like ciao, grazie, and bella gradually became more familiar. I even tried cooking a few simple Italian dishes to practice my skills. Spaghetti aglio e olio was my first success. I took a photo of the golden pasta topped with fried garlic and dried chili flakes and posted it to my story with the caption, First time making aglio e olio. Better than I imagined. I didn't tag anyone or need likes from anyone. I simply did it because I liked it. The next morning, Jackson sent a text. Are you coming to dinner with me tonight? My parents keep asking about you. I stared at the message for a long time before replying briefly. I'm busy studying. You go ahead. He didn't reply immediately, but a while later he texted, What are you studying? Let me help. I gave a soft smile and didn't answer. Before, if he had asked that, I would have been so happy I would have told him everything. Now I felt nothing. In the afternoon, I went to a familiar tea house on the outskirts of the city to study. My phone vibrated with a new story from Chloe. It was a photo of her sitting in a traditional restaurant next to Jackson, his parents, and several other relatives. The whole table was beaming. Her caption read, A cozy family dinner. Thank you, Jackson, and everyone for always being by my side. I scrolled down. Jackson had liked it, just as he always did. In the past, every time I saw something like that, my heart would tighten and tears would stream down my face. I would call him to demand answers, we'd fight, and in the end, it was always me who apologized first. But this time, I just scrolled past and gave it a like. It wasn't out of jealousy or anger. It was a mechanical gesture, as if I were watching someone else's life unfold. That night, I got home later than usual. Jackson had arrived early and was sitting on the sofa, phone in hand, looking exhausted. On the table was a gift box containing a tin of premium Longjing tea. Lily, you're back, he said, standing up with a voice gentler than usual. I bought this for you. It's the kind you like. I looked at the tea, nodded slightly, and said, Thank you. I'm going to take a shower. He caught my hand. Aren't you going to ask me anything about the dinner at my house? I gently pulled my hand away. I saw the story. As long as everyone had a good time, that's all that matters. He frowned. Aren't you mad? Usually you're always... I turned back to look at him, my voice flat. Always jealous, always crying, always demanding an explanation? I'm not like that anymore. He fell silent, his eyes filled with a complex emotion. Then he whispered, Chloe wasn't doing well again tonight. She called me crying non-stop. I had to drop her off before I could come home. I nodded. I see. You take good care of your friend. He stared at me as if he couldn't believe his ears. Lily, are you really not angry? I gave a small smile. I told you, I'm not. Just do what you think is right. He stepped forward to hug me, but I stepped aside. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. You should get some rest, too. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me. I heard him let out a long sigh, followed by heavy footsteps retreating toward the living room. Over the next few days, I became even busier with my study abroad applications. I contacted a center in Chicago that taught Italian and registered for short-term courses in graphic design and Italian art. Every evening, I cooked a new Italian dish: mushroom risotto, homemade tiramisu. I even tried making handmade gelato. I took photos and posted them to my stories, gradually receiving likes from friends and people who followed my design work. There were no more nights spent waiting, no more frantic calls asking where he was. One evening, while I was sitting there studying vocabulary, Jackson came home early. Surprisingly, he brought a bouquet of red peonies, the ones that used to be my favorite. "Lily, I'm sorry for being so busy lately," he said, placing the flowers on the table. "Let's go for a walk along the river tonight. It's been a long time since we've gone together." I looked up, a bit surprised. In the past, I had begged him to go for walks hundreds of times, but he was always busy or Chloe needed him. Now that he was initiating it, I found I had no interest. "I still have to study. I have a practice Italian exam tomorrow." He sat down beside me. "Why are you studying Italian? Your job is going well." I looked at him and said softly, "Just preparing for the future. Venice is beautiful, you know." He was silent for a moment, then asked, "Are you really going to study abroad?" I didn't hide it. "Yeah, just for 2 years. My sister's going with me." He grabbed my hand, his voice pleading. "Lily, don't go. I don't want to be away from you." I pulled my hand back. "You've been away from me so many times before. I'm used to it." He tried to hold me as I stood up and turned off my desk lamp. "Go to sleep, Jackson. It's late." That night, I lay there listening to him toss and turn, unable to sleep. For the first time in 6 years, I slept soundly without dreaming of him. Willow Creek was no longer a place where I dreamed of a man holding my hand on the Phoenix Bridge. Willow Creek was now a place where I would walk on my own, admire the red lanterns on my own, and be happy on my own. In the days that followed, I intentionally kept my distance. It wasn't a loud, angry distance, but a calm, strange silence. I still ate breakfast with Jackson if he was home early, and I still replied to his texts, but everything was brief, polite, and devoid of the clinginess or longing I once felt. He began to notice. Sometimes he would stare at me longer, as if searching for the ghost of the girl who used to cry and beg him to come home every night. But I only smiled, turned away, and continued my work. Then came his birthday, October 15th. In the past, I would have prepared meticulously. In previous years, I would have booked a table at a high-end restaurant on the outskirts of Chicago, spent hours making a layered tiramisu from scratch with mascarpone, invited our mutual friends, and even written a long, heartfelt, handwritten card. But last year, he never showed up. He sent a text halfway through the evening. "Work is crazy at the office. Go ahead and celebrate without me." Shortly after, Chloe's story popped up. It was a photo of him leaning his head on her shoulder in a familiar tea house. Her caption read, "Happy birthday, Jackson. I hope you're always happy by the side of the one you love most." I waited until the next morning to see him come home, stumbling drunk and muttering that Chloe wasn't doing well and he had to stay. This year, I prepared nothing. No cake, no flowers, no early morning wishes. I spent the day doing freelance work and studying Italian, then cooked a plate of seafood linguine for a solitary dinner. Late that night, as I was washing the dishes, Jackson came home. He was dressed in a sharp suit, but his eyes were bloodshot and his hair was slightly disheveled. In his hand, he held a bouquet of white peonies, the kind he once told me were as pure as you. "Lily," he called out softly, his voice husky. "Today is." I turned around and wiped my hands on my apron. "Your birthday, I know." He looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to rush into his arms, waiting for me to apologize for forgetting, waiting for me to act clingy like I did every other year. But I only gave a soft smile. "Happy birthday. It's late. You should go take a shower." He held his ground. "Did you really forget?" I shook my head. "I didn't forget, but I figured you didn't like celebrating birthdays anymore. You said that once." He gripped the bouquet, his voice trembling. "Lily, you've changed." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Yeah, I have, because I'm exhausted from always being the one who waits." He stepped forward to hug me, but I took a step back. "Don't. I still have to study." Right then, the doorbell rang. Jackson frowned and opened the door. Chloe stood there, wearing a traditional white dress and holding a large gift box, her eyes glistening with tears. "Happy birthday, Jackson," she chirped, rushing in to throw her arms around him. "I made a tiramisu for you. Remember? When we were kids, you said it was your favorite." Jackson stiffened, glancing at me. I stood perfectly still, saying nothing, just offering a faint smile. Chloe turned to me, a hint of triumph in her grin. "Oh, Lily, you're here too? I thought you were busy with your studies or something. I brought some premium Longjing tea too, Jackson's favorite. Let's brew some to celebrate," I nodded. "Sure. Come on in." She walked in and placed the gift on the table, then naturally tucked her arm into Jackson's. "Open your gift, Jackson. It took me forever to pick this out." He pulled his arm away. "Chloe, sit down. Lily and I were talking," she pouted. "But I came to celebrate with you. Lily doesn't mind, right?" I smiled. "I don't mind. Make yourself at home." I went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife and fork, and sliced the tiramisu she had brought. The scent of coffee and rum was actually quite pleasant. I held out a piece to Jackson. "Try it. It looks good." He looked at me, then at the cake, but didn't take it. Chloe giggled. "Lily is so thoughtful, but I made this tiramisu following my family's secret recipe. Jackson always said it was the best he's ever had." Jackson suddenly slammed his tea glass onto the table. "That's enough, Chloe." She flinched. "What's wrong?" He stood up, his voice cold. "Go home. I want to spend tonight with Lily." Chloe's eyes welled with tears. "But I came all this way for you. I'm scared to be alone." He cut her off. "I'll call a car to take you back. Just go." She bit her lip, tears streaming down her face, then turned to me. "Lily, are you really not jealous? Jackson and I grew up together, you know that." I looked at her, my voice level. "You two are best friends. Taking care of a friend when they are unstable is the right thing to do. Don't worry about it." She was stunned. Jackson walked to the door and opened it. "Go home, Chloe." The door shut. The sound of her sobbing echoed in the hallway before fading away. Jackson turned back to me. "Lily, I interrupted him. "Let's keep celebrating. I made seafood pasta. It's going to get cold." He sat down at the table but didn't pick up his fork. He just stared at me for a long time. "Do you really not care anymore?" I picked up a piece of pasta and chewed slowly. "I still care, but I don't want to hold on anymore." He bowed his head, his shoulders trembling slightly. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong." I didn't answer. I just quietly finished my meal and stood up to clear the table. That night, Jackson slept on the sofa. I heard him tossing and turning, sighing into the dark. As for me, for the first time in years, I slept a dreamless sleep. His birthday this year had no cake made by my hands and no long-winded wishes. There was only one clear truth. I had begun to let go. After that birthday, the atmosphere in the apartment became heavier than ever. Jackson started trying harder. He came home earlier, cooked traditional breakfasts of white porridge with salted duck eggs and pickles, and bought premium Longjing tea to brew for me. He even downloaded an Italian learning app and sat beside me every night, trying to mimic the pronunciations. But every time he mentioned a shared future, I only gave a faint smile and changed the subject. I knew I was leaving soon. My study abroad applications were complete, and my visa was pending approval. My sister, Sarah, had already booked flight tickets for both of us to go to Venice next month. I didn't tell him, not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't want to see him try to hold on any longer. On a Friday evening, I decided to cook one last dinner in this apartment. It wasn't to celebrate anything. I simply wanted to make a truly delicious meal with my own hands, the way I used to dream about those romantic evenings in Willow Creek. I made homemade meat ravioli, seafood pasta with tomato sauce, a caprese salad with fresh mozzarella, and tiramisu, the dish I had practiced over and over until it was perfect. When Jackson came home, the aroma filled the entire living room. He stood at the door, surprised. "Lily, what are you doing?" I wiped my hands on my apron and smiled. "Just dinner. Have a seat." He sat down and looked at the carefully arranged table, the scented candles, the white tablecloth, and the chamomile tea I had brewed. He picked up his glass and said softly, "It's been a long time since we've had dinner together like this." "Yeah, a long time." We ate in silence for a while until he spoke up. "Lily, are you really going to study abroad? I don't want you to go." I put down my knife and fork and looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm only going for 2 years. After that, I'll come back, or maybe I won't. It depends." He gripped his tea glass tightly. "Why so sudden? Is it because of me?" I smiled slightly. "Not entirely because of you. It's because I realized I can live well without waiting for anyone anymore." He fell silent, then asked softly, "Willow Creek? You still love Willow Creek, don't you?" "Yes, Willow Creek is beautiful. I went there by myself, and I know exactly how beautiful it is when there's no one holding me back." He looked up sharply. "What are you saying?" I recounted the story, my voice as calm as if I were talking about someone else's life. "For our 6th anniversary, you promised to go with me. I prepared everything, from the itinerary to my traditional dresses. But you left me at the airport because of Chloe. I went to Willow Creek alone, hired a guide, and sat in a wooden boat watching the lanterns from the Phoenix Bridge. I realized that town doesn't need you to be beautiful. It's already beautiful on its own." His face went pale. "Lily, I'm sorry. At that time, Chloe really wasn't stable. I cut him off. I know, I've heard your explanations so many times. But did you know? Back in college, I painted a graduation piece called Future. In that painting, you and I were standing on the Phoenix Bridge, holding hands. I used to think my future would always include you. He bowed his head. I remember that painting. I still keep it in my drawer. I shook my head. I tore it up and threw it away, because that future no longer exists. The silence in the room was suffocating. He looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Lily, I was wrong. I've known I was wrong for a long time, but I thought you would always be there, always forgiving. I didn't think you would actually leave. I picked up a piece of ravioli and chewed slowly. I didn't think so either, but 6 years of waiting is enough. He reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Don't go. I'll change. I'll go to Venice with you, learn Italian, do everything you want. Let's get married, Lily. I'm proposing to you right now. I gently pulled my hand away. It's too late, Jackson. He stuttered. Why? Why is it too late? I still love you. I gave a sad smile. You love me, but you always chose someone else first. When I needed you at the airport, you chose Chloe. When I wanted to walk by the river, you chose to comfort her. When I cooked dinner and waited for you, you chose to stay with her. I don't need that kind of love anymore. He bowed his head, his shoulders shaking. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. Not loud sobs, but silent tears falling onto the table. I stood up to clear the dishes. Finish eating, Jackson. I made a lot. He didn't pick up his fork again. He just sat there watching me clean. His voice was thick and raspy. Lily, can you give me one more chance? I paused and looked at him one last time. I gave you 6 years of chances. Now it's my turn to choose myself. I blew out the candles and finished clearing the table. Then, I went into my room and shut the door. That night, Jackson slept on the sofa, the sound of his faint whimpering drifting into my room. As for me, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling an extraordinary sense of relief. That final dinner wasn't an attempt to hold on. It was a goodbye. When he woke up the next morning, I had left a note on the table. Jackson, thank you for the last 6 years. I'm leaving. Don't look for me. I wish you happiness. Lily. I pulled my suitcase out of the house without looking back. Venice was waiting for me. Not the Venice of my old dreams, but the Venice of the present, of my own making. After that final dinner, I didn't stay in the apartment for another day. I moved into Sarah's place in a different neighborhood in Chicago, bringing my suitcases and the few paintings I had left. The small room at her place was tidy, with a window overlooking a little park. It was quiet enough for me to focus on my studies and finalize my paperwork. I blocked Jackson's number, his social media accounts, and our shared work emails. It wasn't out of hatred, but because I needed space to breathe. Every time he tried to call from an unknown number or message me through mutual friends, I quietly declined. I didn't want to hear apologies anymore. Every apology sounded the same, and I had heard enough for 6 years. Sarah was the only one who knew everything. She didn't blame me, she just hugged me and said, Lily, I'm proud of you. Go to Venice. Live for yourself, paint for yourself, and love for yourself. Don't let anyone hold you back again. I nodded, tears streaming down my face, but they weren't out of sadness. They were tears of relief. My final days in Chicago passed quickly. I finished my visa process, bought my plane tickets, and even participated in a small exhibition with a group of freelance artists in the gallery district to say goodbye to my friends. In the exhibition, I displayed my latest piece, a canal in Willow Creek at night, empty of people, with only the shimmering red lanterns reflecting on the water. The title was Beautiful on My Own. My friends asked, Lily, why is this one so sad? I smiled. It's not sad, it's freedom. Jackson was still looking for me. He went to my old freelance studio even though I had already quit, asked around among our friends, and even showed up at Sarah's house once. Sarah opened the door and met him with a cold stare. My sister doesn't want to see you. Go home. He stood outside the door, his voice hoarse. Just let me see Lily once. I just want to apologize. Sarah shook her head. Apologies can wait. Right now, she needs time. Respect her. He stood there for a long time before turning away, his shoulders slumped. I heard about it from her later, but I didn't ask for details. I focused entirely on my luggage, Italian textbooks, my brush set, my laptop, and a few rolled-up canvases. I didn't bring a single keepsake of ours. No old photos, no necklaces, nothing at all. The day before my flight, a package arrived at Sarah's house. Inside was a new matching necklace, the same kind he had given me after that broken promise of a trip, accompanied by a handwritten letter. Lily, I know you've blocked me, but I still need to tell you that I was wrong. I thought you'd always be there, always forgiving, always waiting. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. Please don't go. Or if you must, I will wait for your return. 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes. I will change. I love you. Jackson. After reading it, I folded the letter and calmly tore it into halves, then quarters, and dropped it into the trash. It wasn't out of anger, I simply didn't need any more late promises. That evening, I sat with Sarah drinking tea, talking about my plans for Venice. Enrolling in the design course at the Bellardi Academy, renting a small apartment by the canal, and participating in local exhibitions. She smiled. You're going to shine. I believe in you. The next morning at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, I stood at the check-in counter with my suitcase and backpack. Sarah hugged me tightly. Make sure to video call me often. And remember, you're not alone. You have me and you have yourself. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Thank you, Sarah. I'm off. As the plane took off, I looked out the window and watched the city gradually shrink beneath the gray clouds. My heart didn't feel heavy or full of regret. There was only a sense of weightless freedom. Today, Venice was waiting for me, the city of canals, of sunsets, and of the paintings I would create with my own two hands. I didn't need anyone by my side. I only needed myself. On the morning of my flight, it was pouring rain in Chicago. Heavy droplets drummed against the airport glass, creating long, jagged streaks of water. I pulled my suitcase through the check-in hall with Sarah walking beside me, sharing an umbrella. We were laughing and talking about the Italian foods I would try first in Venice: pistachio gelato, Neapolitan pizza, and pasta al pesto. But as we reached the counter, I paused to check my documents one last time. Sarah stood waiting, then suddenly gripped my hand tighter. Lily, look. I looked up through the rain-blurred glass and saw a familiar silhouette standing in the arrivals area. Jackson. He was wearing a long black coat, his hair soaked, holding an umbrella in his hand but not opening it. He just stood there, staring in my direction. The rain soaked through his coat, but he didn't budge. Sarah frowned. Do you want me to chase him off? I shook my head. No, I'll handle it. I stepped out of the check-in line and pulled my suitcase toward him. Seeing me, Jackson immediately ran over, the rain pattering loudly against his shoulders. He stopped in front of me, gasping for breath. Lily, don't go. I looked at him, my voice flat. What are you doing here? He grabbed my hand, his skin icy cold from the rain. I've been looking for you for days. You blocked everything. I had no other way but to come to the airport. I knew you were flying out today. I gently pulled my hand away. Now that you know, what of it? I'm still leaving. He dropped to one knee right there in the middle of the crowded airport hall as the rain continued to fall outside. Water streamed down his face. He pulled a small box from his coat pocket, a simple diamond ring that shimmered under the neon lights. Lily, marry me. I was wrong. I know how much I've hurt you, but I swear from now on I will change. I'll go to Venice with you. I'll learn Italian. I won't ever make you wait again. Please, give me one last chance. People around us began to take notice. A few stopped to watch and whisper. Sarah stood not far away, her expression worried, but she didn't intervene. I looked at him kneeling there, looked at the ring, and then looked at his face. The face that had been my entire world for 6 years. My heart didn't ache, and it didn't flutter. There was only a strange, quiet peace. I leaned down, my voice gentle but firm. Jackson, get up, don't kneel here. He didn't move, his eyes bloodshot. Are you not going to forgive me? I know I don't deserve it, but I love you. I can't lose you. I sighed. I don't need to forgive you anymore because I've already let go. For the past 6 years, I was always the one chasing you, the one waiting, the one forgiving. I'm tired. I'll make it up to you, he stammered, his voice trembling. I promise. You promised to go to Willow Creek with me, I said. You promised to come home early. You promised to change. Every promise was beautiful, but not one of them ever came true. I don't want to hear any more promises. I looked at him one last time. Back in college, I painted that future piece, you and me on the Phoenix Bridge. I thought that was a real future. But do you know what? When I went to Willow Creek alone and stood on the actual Phoenix Bridge, I realized my future doesn't need you to be perfect. It's already beautiful on its own. He bowed his head, rain mixing with his tears. Lily, I'm begging you. I placed a hand on his shoulder, my tone softening. Thank you for the time we spent together. But now I have to go. Goodbye, Jackson. I turned and pulled my suitcase toward security. Sarah walked beside me, her arm around my shoulder. We didn't look back. As I passed through the security checkpoint, I heard his voice echoing behind me. Lily, I'll wait for you to come back. I didn't stop. I only smiled faintly and whispered to myself, don't bother waiting. I'm not coming back. The plane took off in the middle of the storm. Through the window, Chicago faded into the gray clouds. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The flight landed at Marco Polo Airport on a chilly autumn afternoon. The air carried the scent of sea salt and a faint hint of lavender. I pulled my suitcase out of the arrivals hall and inhaled deeply. No one was there to meet me, and there were no texts asking if I had made it back yet. There was just me and this city. Sarah had already arranged a small apartment for me in the Cannaregio district, a peaceful neighborhood about a 15-minute walk from the Bellarti Academy. The apartment was on the third floor of an ancient building, with large windows overlooking a narrow canal. Every morning I woke to the sound of water lapping against gondolas and pigeons cooing on the red-tiled roofs. I spent the first week adjusting, walking everywhere, buying groceries at the Rialto market, and learning how to order coffee in Italian without a translator. I bought an old bicycle to get around more easily, and every evening I sat by the window sketching arched bridges, carnival masks hanging in shop windows, and lazy cats lounging on windowsills. My courses at the academy began. The first class was Modern Italian Design and Painting. Professor Maria, a middle-aged Italian woman, looked through my portfolio and nodded. "You have strong emotions in your work, but you need to learn to let them be free, unbound." I smiled. "I'm learning how to let go." Maria gave a warm laugh. "Venice is the best place to learn that." I made a few friends in class. Luca, a tall Italian guy obsessed with photography who always carried a Leica, and Sofia, an energetic Spanish girl who specialized in abstract art. We often gathered at a small cafe by the canal after class, drinking spritz and talking about art and life. Luca once asked, "Did you come here all alone? No one came with you?" I nodded. "Alone, and I'm doing just fine." Sophia patted my shoulder. "Being alone is when life truly begins." The first month passed quickly. I finished my first painting for the school's group exhibition, a Venetian canal at sunset. The colors were vibrant, but there wasn't a single person in the frame, only the light reflecting on the water, shimmering and solitary in a beautiful way. I titled it Reflective Solitude. On the day of the exhibition, I stood before my painting wearing a simple black dress, my hair down. The exhibition was crowded, with professors and students from other departments in attendance. Maria patted my shoulder. "This piece is very powerful. It tells a story." Luca took a photo of the painting and then one of me standing next to it. "You look completely different from the day you first arrived. You're truly smiling." I smiled because I had grown accustomed to smiling on my own. That evening, after the exhibition, we walked along the canal. Luca invited me for a gondola ride. It was my first time riding a gondola here without having to hire a guide. He sang a soft Italian folk song in a deep, warm voice. I closed my eyes, letting the Venetian night breeze blow through my hair. When I returned to the apartment, I opened my phone for the first time since arriving. I logged into a secondary, anonymous account I used to keep up with old friends without being seen. Chloe's story popped up, a photo of her sitting alone in that familiar tea house in Chicago. Her caption, "Being alone is okay too, right?" followed by a sad emoji. I scrolled past without liking or commenting, merely whispering to myself, "Yeah, being alone really is okay." Then I saw a story from a mutual friend. A photo of Jackson sitting in our usual bar, a glass of whiskey on the table, staring off into the distance. The uploader's caption read, "Jackson's been acting strange lately. Just sits and drinks by himself, not sure what's up." I turned off my phone and stopped looking. It wasn't because of the pain, but because I simply didn't care anymore. I stood by the window looking out at the dark canal. The lights from the houses across the water shimmered beautifully. I whispered to myself, "Venice is most beautiful when there is no one holding you back." I picked up a brush and began a new painting. Myself standing on the Rialto Bridge, my back turned to the viewer, hair blowing in the wind, holding a small sketch of Venice. No one was by my side. It was just me and this city. The painting wasn't finished yet, but I knew it would be the best thing I had ever painted. 3 months after I arrived in Venice, life in Chicago continued its frantic pace. The neon-lit streets, the honking on the highways, and the old stories were gradually being covered by the dust of time. Jackson changed, not a sudden transformation, but a slow, silent shift, like someone gradually realizing they've lost the most precious thing they had and can never get it back. He scaled back on major projects at work and spent his time learning Italian through apps and books. He bought plane tickets to Venice twice, but both times he stopped at Marco Polo Airport. The first time, he stood in the arrivals hall watching the crowds and then flew back without ever stepping foot into the city. The second time, he rented a small apartment in Cannaregio, just a few canals away from mine, but he didn't dare come close. He only stood at a distance, watching me walk along the canal with Luca and Sofia, laughing and talking, before quietly turning away. One afternoon, Luca took a photo of me in front of the Accademia Bridge. I stood there holding my newly finished painting, hair whipping in the wind. The photo was posted on the class's public Instagram account, and Luca tagged me. The image spread quickly. Old friends in Chicago liked and commented, and eventually, Jackson saw it. He sat in his rented apartment staring at the screen, his hands trembling. It was a photo of me smiling, a real smile, not forced, and not waiting for anyone. Beside me was Luca pointing at the painting and Sophia clapping. There was no room for him in that frame, and he knew he would never be in it again. He called a mutual friend, the only one still in contact with me through Sarah. His voice was thick and raspy. "Can you tell Lily something for me? I just want to know if she's okay." The friend replied, "She's great, truly great. She's living the life she always dreamed of." Jackson was silent for a long time before saying, "I know, I just wanted to apologize one last time." But he didn't do it, because he knew an apology now would only be an added burden for me. Chloe changed too. She stopped posting provocative or clingy stories. She began serious psychological therapy and cut back on her contact with Jackson. Once, she messaged him, "Jackson, I'm sorry for making such a mess of everything. I've realized I need to heal myself, not lean on you." He read the message and didn't reply, simply and silently deleting all the old photos of the two of them from his phone. He started keeping a journal, something he had never done before. The pages were filled with scribbled lines. "Lily posted a new painting today. The Venice she paints is more beautiful than anything I ever imagined. I used to think she would come back, but now I understand she doesn't need to return anymore. I lost her during that first trip to Willow Creek. Not because of Chloe, but because I chose not to be by her side." One evening, he sat by the river in Chicago, watching the water flow. He pulled out the old matching necklace, the one I had thrown into the canal in Willow Creek, and gripped it tightly in his hand. Then, he dropped it into the river. "It wasn't to forget, but to accept." He whispered, "Lily, I truly wish you happiness. In Venice, I knew nothing of these things. I only knew that my life was becoming more and more complete." I finished my first large-scale painting for a small solo exhibition at a local gallery, titled Liberty. The painting depicted a girl standing on the Rialto Bridge, her back to the viewer, arms spread wide as if embracing the entire city. No one was by her side. There was only the blazing red sunset and the shimmering canals. Maria, my professor, looked at the painting and smiled. "You've let go. Now you are truly beginning to paint." I nodded. "Yes, I've let go." The exhibition took place on a winter evening. The small gallery was packed with people. Luca and Sophia stood by my side, applauding as people praised the painting. I stood there in a long, light blue dress, smiling at everyone. From a distance through the gallery's glass door, a familiar silhouette stood in the cold. It was Jackson. He had come for the third time, but this time he didn't try to enter. He just stood there watching me through the frosted glass, seeing me smile, seeing me surrounded by new friends, seeing me happy. He turned and walked away into the light snowfall. He didn't cry, and he didn't call my name. He simply left Venice, the city he had once promised to explore with me, but where, in the end, only I remained. He returned to Chicago to continue his life, but from then on, whenever he saw a painting of Venice or heard an Italian song, he would offer a sad smile. "She did it. She's free now." As for me, I stayed in Venice, continuing to paint, continuing to live, and continuing to love myself.